From low recruited stars to superstars, we're talking about the development over the course of PJ Fleck's time here with the Golden Gophers.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. So be sure to make sure you're making us your first listen when it comes to Gophers daily sports. And for all of you out there doing that, much love and appreciation your way. Be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube, where we're building this channel up, and be sure to follow wherever you get the podcast at Locked On Golden Gophers. And if you can leave a 5-star review, it would be much appreciated to help other Gophers fans find this channel. Now, today we are talking about those under-recruited stars. They went from maybe no stars or low 3 stars to guys that are all conference, to guys that are getting drafted in the NFL, and much more. How the player development has happened and how it's been going here with Coach PJ Fleck. And then a new commit to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Lots to dive into today, and we're going to get it all. So let's jump right in. Now, players with little to no offers that absolutely balled out in Coach Fleck's time with Minnesota thus far is what we're going to cover first. Now, in Coach Fleck's time here with the Golden Gophers, he has officially had 7 full recruiting classes thus far. Now, we've talked about this on a previous episode where we covered the 4 stars. We're kind of doing the inverse of that. We're covering the guys who maybe didn't get as much love, as much hype as high school recruits that turned out and showed out for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But in those 7 classes, on average, Coach Fleck's team in 2017 was in the 50s in rankings. 2018, it was in the late 30s. 2019, it was in the mid 40s. 2020, it was at 38th across the board. 2021, it was in that mid 30s, early 30s. 2022 in the 40s again, and 2023 finishing around that 40th mark as well when you're looking at all 3 platforms of On3, Rivals, and 247. Now, 2024 currently sits at 16th when it comes to 247, 33rd in On3, and 18th on Rivals. Now, although we're not always looking at the recruiting ranks because they themselves can be hit or miss, and also it's way early in the 2024 class, lots can change. We're just getting started when it comes to recruiting, but we are seeing the Gophers kind of tick up in the recruiting success. So you love to see that. But also, I really want to stress this. I want to stress this before we dive in deep with it. Do not swear by these recruiting sites. I just want to say that to relieve some stress off of your plates, and also just understand that they're not perfect. They're not consistent, and sometimes they can be a little bit sneaky. So I have caught multiple sites, or at least one for sure, multiple times, that changed the numbers of these high school recruits after the fact, and not after maybe 3 months of after the fact. I'm talking about once they're sophomores, juniors in college. I've seen their rankings change, and it's not just, oh, we bumped them slightly from an 87 to an 86 when it comes to a 3-star. No, I've seen it change from 3-star to 4-star after the guy is a junior in college and seeing good production, which is unfortunate. It's a little bit sketchy in my opinion, and I saw that for a fact with Tyler Nubin. Actually, we did our 4-star show with our notes on February 22nd. Tyler Nubin was not rated a 4-star prospect. You go over to 247 right now and you check it out. He is now the number 1 prospect in his class of 2018 and a 4-star prospect. Well, how can his high school prospect change to a 4-star after he is now heading into his final year of eligibility with the Gophers? That's the sneakiness that you sometimes see with these platforms. So don't swear by it. I just wanted to put that out there before we dive in deep with some of these numbers, because in the end, none of these star rankings, across any of the platforms, is going to be perfect. So you have to go with what you see from player development and how it has been panning out. And that is why we are doing this show, because you shouldn't be star watching. You should be looking at what has happened thus far in the time. So let's talk about that with Coach Fleck. In his time with Minnesota, he has currently had 12 players drafted in the last 4 years. Now, prior to his time with Minnesota, Minnesota took a decade to get 12 players to be drafted in prior to Fleck coming here. Like I said, it is the most for the program in any stretch, any 4-year stretch since 1994. So that should tell you alone how the development has been spanning here. But let's talk about that, because Minnesota will look to add 4, maybe more. Maybe if they can throw in maybe a late 7th round pick on Thomas Rush or something of sorts, maybe they can get more. But they're looking to have 4 guys at least drafted in this next draft, which could keep that trend going. So of those 12 that have been drafted, and we'll talk about the 4 that are likely to be drafted in the upcoming draft, that's 16 players. Of those 16 players, 4 of them were 4-star recruits, only 4. And that is Daniel Faalele, Rashad Bateman, Benjamin St. Juste, who transferred over, and Carter Coughlin. Those 4 are the only 4-star players that Minnesota has had drafted in those 16 we are looking at. Then you move on to the high 3-star guys, the guys that still have a national ranking in their 3-stars. So they're more in that, typically your 4-star guys will be in that 89 or higher ranking when it comes to 247. A little bit harder to explain it on the On3 and Rivals, but they usually are kind of in flow with each other. So high 3-star guys that we've seen: Chris Williamson. He had a national ranking of 438th, a 3-star guy. Tyler Johnson, 3-star guy, 561st in the national rank. Terrell Smith, T-Time, 3-star guy, 744th in the national ranking. And Kamal Martin, 3-star guy, 791st in the national ranking. So you have 4 3-star guys that have been drafted or will likely be drafted, Terrell Smith this year, that have been high 3-stars. That's what we're going to call high 3-stars. So 8. You have 8 players of your 16. Half of the 16 that will be drafted came with 4 stars or high 3-stars. That means 8 others were low ranked, low recruited, or not recruited, not ranked at all. I can't say not recruited. They came to the Gophers, but not ranked at all when it came to their high school prospect status. 8, 50% of the guys that will be drafted in Coach Fleck's time here have come from seemingly nothing. Now, the no national ranking 3-star guys that make that list: John Michael Schmitz could be a 1st-round pick for the Golden Gophers. I think the 2nd 1st-round pick, if he makes if he gets that draft capital in this draft class, he will be the 2nd 1st-round pick for the Gophers with Coach PJ Fleck at the helm, not nationally ranked. Mo Ibrahim, 3-star guy, not nationally ranked. Boye Mafe, 2nd-round pick, high 2nd-round pick, 3-star guy, not nationally ranked. Isaizi Atomiwu, 5th-round draft pick, 3-star guy, not nationally ranked. Antoine Winfield Jr. That is right. He was not nationally ranked, a 3-star safety, and he absolutely balled out in the Big Ten, made all Big Ten team, went on, played a huge role as a rookie, won a Super Bowl. Antoine Winfield Jr. And that's not even the best when it comes to low rankings. Now, he was, of all these players I've listed so far, every single player I've listed so far, Antoine Winfield Jr. was ranked the lowest of all these guys so far. Can you believe that? That talks to not only determination from the players, not only the effort and the hard work from the players, but the development that has gone on with this program. Keith, 3-star guy, not nationally ranked, gets drafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 6th round. But there are 2 names on this list that should absolutely, they're the blood, the sweat, the tears, the foundation of hard work in player development from the player and the program combined. Blake Cashman, no ranking at all, no stars, ends up a draft pick, still playing in the NFL today, got a new contract with the Houston Texans. And Jordan Howden. Both of these guys, walk-ons. Jordan Howden is looking to be drafted this year, has had a ton of visits in these official visits heading into the draft. And I absolutely, for a fact, believe, and basically I know wholeheartedly this man is going to be selected at NFL draft. No rankings, no stars, sheer hard work and player development. Watching him come along in his leadership roles, in his identification on the field, and so much, that should tell you the player development at hand here with the Gophers and why it is so special. But that's just the players who have gotten or are likely to be drafted in the next NFL draft. And there's so much more to be said with player development here. And I want to go even deeper. And that's what we're going to do coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Built Bar. It's that protein protein bar, basically covered in 100% real chocolate, that if you haven't tried it, it is time to get it done. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't even have to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built bars through Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club, while you can still get your specialty flavors at Built.com. That's right. So you can head to the nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puff at Walmart today. And be sure to head on to Built.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your next order. Now, Gophers fans, thank you so much for listening, making Locked On Golden Gophers your first listen when it comes to Gophers everyday sports. We're covering Gophers each and every day of the week, and I thank you for making it a first listen. And I thank you, shout out to all the everydayers out there that are listening to this podcast each and every day to get that Gophers good content. And if you are an everydayer, you already know we've talked about the 4-star guys and what they've done productivity-wise. Has there been transfers? Has there been production? Has it just been a bust, so to speak, with those 4-star guys? And if you haven't seen that, I will link it at the end of the show. Welcome to the club. Become an everydayer, because it's a grind, folks, and it is a fun grind at that. But we are talking about the underrated guys, the guys who have gone from not ranked very highly to superstars or big-time players for the program. And we talked about all the guys who have been drafted in Coach PJ Fleck's time, but there are more players to dive deeper in that might not get drafted or have been drafted. So we talked about the NFL draft list, but let's dive deeper, because you've got guys like Tanner Morgan, 3-star guy, not nationally ranked, 15 school records. That's right, 15 school records as a quarterback, and as not recognized as a nationally ranked player as a high school prospect. That just goes to speak to how good the player development has been, not just at that NFL caliber level that we talked about previously, but also as just a Power 5 quality level player, including the most wins for a quarterback in Gophers history. Now, you might not be a huge fan of Tanner Morgan. Now, I personally am a fan of Tanner Morgan and what he has done on and off the field. But what you cannot argue is that he won games here with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They won, and they've changed the notion, the history of being maybe a lower program, and they're trying to work their way up. Now, they might not be the national contenders of a Michigan, of an Ohio State, or Penn State that keeps their name in that conversation all the time. They're going to keep pushing, keep progressing, and trying to get to that type of caliber. But 3 9+ win seasons in the last 3 full seasons, you can't argue with that. They've gotten winning done. They've had players show up, and Tanner Morgan is one of those players. But another one we have to talk about is another walk-on player, and Axel Rushmeyer, all Big Ten third team, no ranking, walk-on guy, doesn't get very many opportunities at all up until the 2020-2021 season, where he fills in spot minutes as backup offensive lineman where he needs, sometimes the 6th starter in the 2021 season where they would run the run heavy packages, but gets the opportunity starts every single game in 2022 as the left guard, earns third team all Big Ten, not only from the media, but from the coaches as well. And that is just straight love, straight respect on a guy who grinded from a walk-on to get a scholarship to an all Big Ten player. So you got Tanner Morgan, you've got Axel Rushmeyer, you've got Jordan Howden, who we've mentioned as a guy that will likely be drafted, but again, started as a walk-on and earned Big Ten honorable mention. You've got Blake Cashman, who earned Big Ten second team as a walk-on player. Jack Gibbons, who was a no-star guy, again, goes to an FCS school, transfers from that FCS school to lead the team in tackles, become an all Big Ten honorable mention, make an NFL roster, and lead that roster in tackles in multiple games in his undrafted rookie season with the Tennessee Titans last year. I'm just listing these players back to back to back to back, and I haven't even been able to dive into every single player that has been named an all Big Ten team, whether that be first, second, third, or honorable mention in Coach Fleck's time here. In 2019, the great season that we all remember so fondly, there were 7 Gophers that made one of those 4 honorable mention or above teams. And the list keeps going. Mariano Sori-Marian, multiple honorable mentions and a third team with the Big Ten. Coney Durr, some honorable mentions within the Big Ten. Thomas Rush has had Big Ten recognition. Thomas Barber, third team all Big Ten. All of these players that I am telling you about right now and listing, Big Ten recognitions, big time players for the Gophers, not nationally ranked. 3-star guys. That should go to say it even further. And that's not even the top of the iceberg. That's not every single player. We could go deeper and deeper and deeper, but it goes to show you the point at hand that this player development in Coach Fleck's time here is definitely something special. We are just scratching the surface of what could come with player development, because as we continue to generate success, as we continue to get this thing going, more players that you wouldn't expect are starting to head this way. You've got guys ready to show out, ready to step up, ready to make a name for this program and want to be a part of something special. On the defensive end, Joe Rossi has built a powerhouse on that defense, and we look to continue that trending into the 2023 season. You look at the offensive line and how this has been a pillar and a staple for the program for the past few years now, and now we've got more wide receivers getting interested. You saw Ethan Kaliakmanis flash at quarterback, who absolutely has the talent, and more wide receivers are like, yo, I could be a part of that. I dig the culture. I dig the standard. I dig what is building with Minnesota. And all of that is on the foundation in the backs of the player development that has happened from guys that were basically brushed off, looked at as relative unknowns, as guys that probably couldn't hang in Power 5, and they proved them wrong. They grinded, they worked hard, they put in the extra effort, they did the unnecessary, unrequired work to become all Big Ten type players, to set records across the entire program. That is what has been happening under Coach Fleck. And I know there's moments, look, you know that I am the first one at the front of the line talking about we don't pass the ball enough. There's not enough passing attempts in Coach Fleck's era here, and we've got to change it up. Now, the time to do that is now. There's still things that need to be improved. There's still things that need to change and progress. We have to beat Iowa, straight up. That's a fact. I get it. It's not perfect yet. But what you'd have to hang your hat on is the fact that the player development has been absolutely something to boast about over Coach Fleck's time here, something we haven't had in quite some time over the last few decades. And that is what has been maybe the most special thing about this or almost the most special thing, that all these players, they want to grit it out. They buy into the culture. They turn into leaders. They set the standard. And that might be the most impressive thing outside of one other thing in Coach Fleck's time. So I think it is second to only how active in giving and to the community that this team and Coach Fleck have been in the time here. So far we've had high academics, some of the best academic standards with the football team in quite some time. No scandals, underrated players turning into stars and all conference players, more NFL draft picks, winning more at a more consistent level than we have in decades, and yet there is still room to grow, strive for more, and attain more. More talent is coming on board, more grit to be had, and more winning to be done. So you should be proud of the player development. And speaking of the guys that want to be a part of it, speaking of the guys that want to continue to build on this thing, the Minnesota Gophers have a new commit. The number one safety prospect in the state of Virginia is headed this way. And we're going to talk about him and the dirty details behind that awesome prospect coming up next. All right, Gophers fans, we are talking about a new Gophers commit that is ready to roll, and I am here for it. I am ready, and that is Zahir Rainer. He commits to the Golden Gophers on 247's live broadcast. You get to see him pull out the hat. He's excited to get it done. He talked about the culture and the standard, and just he loved that presence that he was a part of when he came and visited here, when he got to speak with the coaches, when he got to develop those relationships. He's the best safety in the state of Virginia. Antoine Winfield is one of his favorite players, Antoine Winfield Jr. And so that connection is pretty awesome, pretty special that he can go play for the same exact school. And he can, when we're looking at how he could play for the Gophers, what role he could play in, we're looking at that safety nickel position. So think of what Flip Dixon did last year, what Jack Henderson is likely to do this year. That is the type of role we could see Zahir play in moving forward as a Gopher. Now, Henderson has 2 years of eligibility left. So that means this year and then potentially next year as well, when Rainer would be here with the Gophers, which is prime for him because he could learn and be able to work hand in hand with someone who has that knack for it, that knowledge for it, that secondary just instinct that all these coaches are already raving about. The media is already talking to you about from the practices that we've gotten to see and what you are going to know and love this 2023 season when Jack Henderson hits the field. That is what Zahir can work with and learn with and grow with moving forward. And that is absolutely awesome that they should have at least 1 year to kind of transition that. Now, Zahir has held offers from Stanford, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Duke, Wake Forest, and UNC, a ton of ACC programs. UNC having just been in the ACC championship game. You've got Duke on the rise. Virginia's had its moments. Wake Forest, all these powerhouse ACC programs, and he is in the middle of ACC country over there in Virginia. And he's like, nah, it's Gophers time. It's time to roll, and that is where he is coming. It is absolutely awesome to see that happen. Now, when you turn on the tape for Zahir, you will see he is a natural. He is instinctive. He finds the ball. He reads quickly. He adjusts. It's what you love to see in a high school prospect. He can read the field well, and he's got some explosion both in his movements and in his tackling. That man can lay the hammer. So his pops also played for West Virginia and then also did 7 years in the NFL, accruing 500 tackles, 4 sacks, and 1 interception in his time. And now I know I said he's explosive when he is tackling, but I just want to reiterate, this man can lay the smackdown. And that is absolutely prevalent in his tape. I love to see it. I am excited to see what he does. But on the flip side, as a defensive back, he has soft hands. So even when he is jumping routes, even when he is coming in full speed, he is still able to pick it off. And that cannot be stated or overlooked as a defensive back, how important that can be. So you love to see it. Now, you're pairing Zahir with guys like Zaquan Bryan, complete athlete, huge speed, knack for the ball, has played wide receiver at the highest level in the state of Georgia. You've got Tariq Watson, huge speed guy, learning heavily in these early reps during the spring camp because the room is so shallow at that cornerback right now. You've got Coleman Bryson, who we saw become the MVP of the bowl game last year. He's had picks in some of these open practices we've had. He is going to be a future in the backfield. Darius Green, who is an energizer. He can play that Howden role. He is impactful, huge hitter as well. That secondary, that no-fly zone, that back end of the defense is building some quality youth that Gophers fans should absolutely be excited for moving forward. Now, although Minnesota will likely need to hit the transfer portal for some cornerback depth heading out of this spring session, The youth coming in these last few last few recruiting classes in the last few years is the real deal, and it is something to be excited about with Coach Joe Rossi heading this defense up, with Coach Nick Monroe in tow, with Coach Collins continuing to work with these guys and help them grow as well. It should be an exciting time for a no-fly zone out here in Minnesota with the Golden Gophers, and you should be getting jacked for this 23 season and beyond. That is going to do it for us here at Locked On Golden Gophers today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss anything that is coming up. And what is coming up next week is we are going to talk about, here's some of the topics we're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about the QB departures, not only the decommitment from Aaron Philo, but the transfer portal with Jacob Knuth. We're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about what it means. Is it because Athan's balling out? Is it because of some other things? We're going to dive deeper on that. Then next week, we're also going to talk about, is Joe Rossi cooking up something different? I've got some thoughts from the last media practice that have me excited, and you should be too. And then we'll do some review of the offense and the defense prior to next weekend's spring game, officially on April 22nd. So be sure to tap in, be sure to tune in, hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes dropping next week, and I will see you then. Row the boat, Sky Yuma, go Gophers, let's do this thing.